Yo, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Walterdoom back for another episode of Film and Guts, and we are closing out the year. Yeah, it is about to be 2025, and I gotta say, as far as 2024, as I am recapping on the year itself, I want to say it's been a year. It honestly has been a year for me. There's some wins. There are a lot of losses and trials and tribulations, and also some soul searching as well. I don't know how everyone else's 2024 has been, but I know for mine, I am looking for the triumph. I am looking for even a bigger, greater triumph come the new year. 2024. As far as movies go, we have been given a lot of movies on our plate this year. I feel like this year had a lot of different releases, and as far as this episode, I am going to give you guys some of the movies that I really do like and the ones that I really do care about. So yeah, this is pretty much what I like, what I didn't like. And as y'all know, if y'all been following me on the social medias for a while, y'all know I usually do a countdown list. I guess in a way, if you could call it that, a countdown list. Give you my top 20 movies that I liked for the year. And I give you my worst films of the year as well. I give that as a top 10. 2023 had a lot of really good films that I liked. And I've watched a bunch last year. But transparency, y'all. Unfortunately, I have not watched a lot of movies from this year. And most of it being is life doing its thing. Life doing its thing. I wish I watched more movies from this year, but I either didn't have time for it or it was just films I wasn't really interested in. But I'm going to go ahead and talk about the movies that I did watch from this year and did like from this year. Now, full transparency, like I said before, don't get upset if I don't actually list whatever movie that y'all like from this year on my list. Once again, this is my list of films. If you want to talk about whatever movies you like from this year, do it in my comment section. There's a comment section on Spotify. If you're listening to on Spotify, there's a comment section on YouTube. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into my top 5 movies that I like from this year. And the way I'm doing it is these movies are not in any particular order, honestly. But what I am going to do is give you 3 words to kind of describe how I feel about the film. And after those 3 words or less, I am going to go ahead and tell you why I like those films. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. So we are going to go ahead and talk about the top 5 movies that I like from this year. 3 words or less. And the first movie I want to talk about is Late Night with the Devil. And the 3 words I came up with this one is David Dot's Madness. So as y'all know, Late Night with the Devil is a movie where it's kind of like simulating a old school talk show from the 70s. And the thing that I like about this movie is that it has that 70s aesthetic vibes, like a late night show vibes, like something like Johnny Carson or Jay Leno. Well, I know Jay Leno wasn't the 70s, but Jay Leno was one of the talk shows I used to watch when I was younger. If y'all didn't know about Jay Leno back in the day, Jay Leno was like very hilarious. I mean, I loved his show. I used to like stay up just to watch like literally maybe the first hour of it because it was the most entertaining part of the show. I didn't really care for like the interview parts. It was more so like the comedy bits, like the headlines that were always like miswritten and what have you, and it could be misconstrued as different things, or the different jokes he had about celebrities in his opening monologues. Those are always the interesting thing for me about Jay Leno's show. But Late Night with the Devil, it has that whole Johnny Carson feel with it's like a big spectacle of events happening, talking to celebrities. And I was looking at Dead Meat just to kind of like look at the kill count a bit and kind of get a refresher about like what happened in the movie, because it's been a while since I've seen it, but it was definitely one of my higher rated films for this year. And the thing that they mentioned is Late Night with the Devil did a lot of research. They were researching a lot of talk shows from the 70s all the way up to like today. And you could really get that whole vibe from when you watch this movie, because it feels like you're watching a late night TV show that ends up having like all types of horrific things happening. Because in the movie, David Dastmalchian, who is the lead in the movie, who usually has like a supporting role in a lot of movies. One of the roles that he was in that I remember famously that was put out there was when he was in The Dark Knight, and he played that nameless goon or soldier, whatever, that was working for the Joker. Yeah, just to see him in a leading role after taking on so many supporting roles over the years, which is like a real good example of saying like, hey, do not quit your dreams. Do not give up on your dreams. You know, if David Dastmalchian could finally get that leading role that he always wanted, and he plays his leading role seamlessly too, you too could achieve your dreams in whatever you set your sights on. Another good aspect of this film was Ingrid Torelli, who played Lily, the creepy possessed kid. And I mean, there was a lot of layers with that film, with that character. I mean, the character Lily is supposed to be like this kid who survives this cult, because this story does deal with the 70s, and during that time it was the Satanic Panic era. And just to see like Ingrid kind of give like that shiftiness, I mean, they said like she was literally practicing her looks in the mirror to kind of get right for the film. I mean, she plays her role very right. The only thing I really had a problem with this movie is like the behind the scenes, because they do have a behind the scene aspects of this film to kind of like fill in the gaps of storylines that might get lost. But it seems kind of weird because there's like things that the characters talk about that's behind the scenes, and it's like there's a camera recording y'all. Why are you talking about this while the cameras are rolling? I don't know, but it seemed kind of weird to me, but I still love this movie nonetheless. The second movie that I loved from this year is In a Violent Nature, and the 3 words that I have for this one was slasher meets nature. And the thing about this movie is I saw this movie in theaters. It was a Q&A with Chris Nash being there as well, taking questions and answering them. The whole event was really good. I mean, it felt kind of snobbish in a way because I felt like there was a lot of film majors in there that were just pretentious. The pretentious film majors, you know. And not to bag on like people who are film majors. I'm just saying like there's some people who are film majors and they just feel like they are greater than God or whatever. But that's something I'm not about to get into. What I do love about this film is that it's a very unorthodox film where you get to go into the shoes of the killer. So the shoes of the killer, which is Johnny, basically is trying to get this necklace that was stolen from his site, which basically woke up his grave where he was buried for quite some time. And all he wanted was his chain back, man. All he wanted was his necklace. All he wanted was his necklace, bro. The thing is, what makes this movie unorthodox, it's just that we don't really see too much perspectives of the killer. There's not too many movies that do it. Saw did it pretty slightly well when in Saw 4 you had Officer Riggs basically kind of going into the shoes of the killer in a way. But the movie that does that very well as far as like perspectives of the killer is the Maniac movie starring Elijah Wood, the remake that came out. I can't remember what year it came out, but it was 2000 something. I didn't even note it, but yeah, Elijah Wood basically plays a serial killer and goes on a killing spree, and we're only like left with only his perspective on what he does. And that movie is very interesting. I've seen it like a couple of years ago. Very unorthodox, very refreshing to kind of see. But to get a serial killer type Jason, Freddy, Chucky type character where we always go like, damn, how did that killer just catch up to those characters like that? It was interesting to see like a movie like that. And this is also like a movie as if you were to watch any Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street movies, you know, you're always kind of cheering for some of the characters to live, even though you want to see a bunch of them die. There's some characters you were kind of cheering for in those movies, but in this film, you could truly say, fuck those characters. I want to see all of them dead. At least for me. I'm going to speak for myself. I know for sure I was like, fuck those characters. They all could go. They're all terrible people. I didn't want to see any of them survive, honestly, but next movie that I want to talk about that I like from this year, and this should be no surprise to anybody, but I saw the TV Glow. And the 3 words that I want to say for this one, TV or depression. I mean, it's no mystery about like how much I talk about my own mental health and how much I've been kind of suffering throughout the year, but it's something I've been dealing with for a very long time. For those that don't really know about that, but this movie, I want to say, is if you are definitely in a depressing mood or you just want a movie to depress you, this movie will definitely do that. But it's like almost like an entertaining depression because of like how much layers go into this movie. As y'all know, like this movie follows the character Owen, which is played by Justice Smith. He ends up finding out that him and his friend Maddie are basically characters from a TV show that kind of like manipulates reality or whatever. What makes this movie very interesting is that the different takes that it's in this movie, depending on how you're watching it, like I mentioned before, you can either watch this movie as either a analogy to being depressed in life or dealing with mental illness, or you can see it as like a sci-fi movie that is dealing with 2 characters trying to get back to the TV show that they are the stars of. Like some of the layers that are interesting with this movie that I do love is basically, you know, searching for identity, and you get that with Owen, you know, discovering mental health and physical abuse of a friend. Director James Chauvinot, I always butcher their name, but you know, they're very obsessed with TV, so like this show is dealing with losing touch with reality through TV. And just a lot of sci-fi madness that goes on with this film. You know, a lot of this film really does sit close to me, especially this year alone. Because like I mentioned before, I have dealt with a lot personally that I'm not really going to go into like just with, you know, publicly on the podcast. But The only thing I will do address is like mental health and just like how much like getting help and having people who understand your mental health is important because, you know, sometimes you just might not be in the mood for like a lot of things, a lot of talk, or just a lot of anything. You know what I'm saying? And you kind of need people around to understand, like, okay, just because someone is feeling some type of way right now doesn't mean like they hate me or anything like that. Because that's not usually the case with people who are dealing with mental health. It's just when you're dealing with mental health, you are definitely in a stagnant state where you just can't really pull yourself to, I guess in a way, like open up to a lot of people. But a lot of things that sat close to me from this movie was just the storylines of dealing with sickness and death in a family. You know, I mean, a lot of us could really relate to that, whether it's like a health scare you deal with yourself or a health scare you deal with like a family member, or someone has passed away that's either close to you, that's like either, you know, a friend or a family, whatever. You know, we've all dealt with that, and that part really does sit close to me, you know, each time when I watch this movie. Another thing that was sitting close to me was the emasculation of men in society. As I mentioned in my podcast briefly, is that the character Owen does go through a lot of emasculating situations where they're trying to keep him stagnant and content with the life that he's living. And I feel like I relate to that so much because of just how society is and just like things I've dealt with in my life that tries to emasculate me as well. But, you know, I felt like that storyline was pretty interesting. And untreated and undertreated mental illness. Like I mentioned before, like, you know, mental health has been a big thing for me. And the struggles with it, you know, it's not an easy task, and trying to find ways to like cope with it. I mean, to me, it's like that Earl Sweatshirt songs when he says like depression is not a phase, you know, and it's really not. It's really not a phase, honestly. That's why I say like it's important for, you know, to have people around that understand, like, you know, this is not a phase. This is not anything that's asking for like attention. This is like real life shit, you know, that a person deals with every day. But beyond all that, I do love this movie. I continuously watch it every single time and every single chance I get. I mean, if I'm not watching that, I'm watching Rick and Morty or Batman the Cape Crusader, which is some of the things I've watched a lot this year. But I Saw the TV Glow is definitely like one of my favorites this year. Another movie that I thought was great was Terrifier 3, and the three words best sum this movie: gore, gore, gore. Honestly, what else can I say about Terrifier 3? I mean, it's probably like the most brutal movie to watch this year, honestly. I mean, between the bathroom scene, the dildo mirror scene, and Frosty Santa, and not to mention Santa at the mall, or Art the Clown Santa at the mall. I mean, this has got to be the most brutal movie ever that came out this year. I feel like I'm seeing less and less of the gory slasher films, and I really do feel sad about that, honestly. But this movie was definitely worth the wait for when it came out, which was close to Halloween. Again, this is another movie that I saw in theaters, so it was definitely worth the wait. I love the movie, and I love the fact that they further on the storyline from the Terrifier series. Basically because in Terrifier 2, they try to make a story, and that's probably one of my biggest gripes about Terrifier 2 was that they're trying to make a story. And it kind of was obvious that they are basically making a series of movies for it. Who knows how long this movie is going to go? Hopefully they don't go too long with it, because sometimes a movie could wear out its welcome after a while. And especially in these times, a movie that goes more than 4 or 5 movies ends up almost really wearing out its welcome so much, because there is only so much you could do. especially when you get rid of the main characters and you replace them with like other showrunners for the movie. Scream, I'm looking at you. But I do love the fact that in Terrifier 3, they do have the storyline about heaven and hell, the big battle, the epic battle, and nothing gets more epic than stories in the Bible and everything like that. But this is not a religious channel or anything like that, but I'm going to just leave it at that. But there is a lot of religious connotations that are in this film that if you are not somebody of the church, or if you're just someone that doesn't really research things about religion, you probably missed a lot of it. You probably missed a lot of the religious references. But this is definitely like a movie that is really trying to build an epic story. And they've been actually building this religious story since, I want to say, honestly, All Hallows Eve. Because in All Hallows Eve, they do have the first movie that was called The Ninth Circle, I believe. And it definitely does have a lot of religious aspects within that film. Well, within that short film, I should say. So for those that are probably just looking at Terrifier 3 and probably are confused on why are they including so much religious aspects in this film, well, they've been doing this religious aspects for a very long time, especially when you look at that whip that Art the Clown uses. I mean, that is definitely a symbolism of the whip that Jesus got whipped when he was carrying the cross and everything like that. So definitely Terrifier 3 is on its way of becoming very epic, and I can't wait to see what happens in Terrifier 4, which I believe is supposed to be coming out next year. If not next year, I hope it's like 2026, so that way they could kind of tighten it up a bit more and make it look more dope and what have you. But moving on to the next one. So the last film that I liked from this year was VHS Beyond. And the 3 words that I have for this one is believe in aliens. So VHS Beyond is part of the VHS series. And as y'all know, I do have a lot of love for the VHS series. I don't really have too many bad things I usually say about the series itself, except for, well, I should say, I don't have a lot of bad things that I have to say about any of the installments except VHS Viral, which I thought was the worst VHS of them all. But the other VHS movies that have came out, they were either between all right and to good. I want to say VHS Beyond is definitely like beyond good. I want to say it's definitely a classic, just like the first VHS is. I mean, I don't think any VHS installments are going to match the freak of VHS 1. Honestly, I don't think anyone's matching that freak, but VHS Beyond has a lot of good stories that deal with aliens. And I do like the fact that with this installment, they do have a topic of discussion that they stick with, and they have like the surrounding short films to kind of complement that. The only problem I have is Justin Long's story, which is definitely a standout because it's so different from all the other films, is that he talks about furries in his story. I don't know why he did that, but I mean, hey, it was part of the VHS Beyond series. So I think because it's Justin Long, they really wanted to have him be part of it, but that's all right with me. But those are the 5 movies that I would say I really do enjoy from this year. So when I come back, I'm going to talk about the movies that I was basically, I won't say that I hate, but it's more so like I was disappointed with. So like you shouldn't say in a scary movie, I'll be right back. Yo, Walterdoom here, and if you guys are enjoying this podcast and you want to donate to the show, yo, your boy got a Ko-fi account. Make sure you check that out in the link in the bio and donate whatever you can. Also, if you are a creator, a director, or anybody that's involved with podcasting or film, and you want to come along on the podcast and talk with your boy, hit me up. My email is in the description, and you can hit me up on Instagram on Walterdoom Horror. Also, if you are enjoying the show and you love your boy and you want to give him like a few follows, likes, subscribe, comments, go ahead. It's free 99 to do that. Other than that, let's get back to the show. Alright y'all, so I am back now, and I am going to talk about the 5 disappointing movies from this year. And just like with the ones that I like, I am going to describe these movies in 3 words or less and give you the reasons why I kind of talked about them in that way. So first off, let's start off with Lisa Frankenstein, and the 3 words I have for this movie is sappy emo shit. Honestly, I thought this movie was going to be a lot more funnier, more I want to say Jennifer's Body than I can't even think of a movie that's more sappier than this. But I guess like I want to say 10 Things I Hate About You. Honestly, that's what it felt like. I tried to keep it horror, but I couldn't with this one. It really did feel like one of those cheesy early 2000 date night movies, and I just really didn't give a fuck about this movie. Honestly, Cole Sprouse, get out of here with that. The only thing I really do like about this film was the music. They had a lot of Galaxy of the Lost, and honestly, that song, I ended up putting that in one of my playlists after watching this movie. And I know that this song has been out for a very long time. I mean, it's like a early 90s song or maybe early 2000s song, but either way, it was a song that I was just like, you know what? What's the name of this band? Let me add this to the playlist. But yeah, I just didn't care about like the whole Lisa trying to find herself journey and her trying to like become whatever person just because of her shitty mother and sister and what have you. I didn't really care for Cole Sprouse's character trying to, I guess, use Lisa as his new love of the life or replacement love for the chick that he lost to whoever the fuck he lost his girl to. But either way, I just didn't care. I honestly just did not care about this movie. It was very disappointing to me. Even though like it was definitely twisted in a Sweeney Todd type of way where Cole Sprouse was basically murdering for love, just like Sweeney Todd did. I mean, well, Sweeney Todd was murdering for revenge, but it was because Sweeney Todd loved his wife and he thought she was brutally assaulted, so he had to go on a revenge spree on a lot of people. But Cole Sprouse's character, yeah, I just didn't care about it. I honestly just was not a fan of Lisa Frankenstein. It was very mid. It was mid if you're a casual watcher, but it was terrible if you're just like someone who is a big horror buff or just someone who loves horror movies in general. I mean, unless like, you know, for the women might have liked it. I don't know, but I don't want to assume like only the women like this movie, because I've heard some women say like this movie wasn't that good to them either. So yeah, Lisa Frankenstein, they could have kept that one in the vault. Number 2, I have Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2, and the 3 words I got for this movie was too much money. Too much money. As y'all know, last year I did love Blood and Honey 1. I gave big props for the production team, director, and everything that they were doing. Did I say like it was like well written? No, of course it wasn't well written. Did I say it was well produced? No, of course not. It wasn't well produced, but it was one of those. It was so bad, it was good movies. I mean, it had creative kills. It had like what I like to see, nudity in a film, and honestly, female nudity, honestly, you know, and it had just like a little bit of a storyline that you could follow that was just good enough. Even though it wasn't the best, you know, you were able to follow it. The problem that I have with this film is just bigger budget, too much money that was given to these people, honestly, for them to just make the film that they were making. And I felt like it was just a knockoff of Five Nights at Freddy's. And I ain't even talking about the video game. I'm talking about the terrible Five Nights at Freddy's movie. I just feel like they were doing too much. Honestly, they were trying to make too much of a storyline. But again, this is probably because with this series, they're now about to create this Poonaverse. And I believe Peter Pan is supposed to be the next movie coming out pretty soon. So they are trying to find ways to develop this film series in a way where like they create a story where all these characters come together and they make this Avengers type film. I didn't like it. The only thing that I want to say is Tigger was the only thing that was exceptional, because Tigger had this whole Freddy Krueger aesthetic about him where he had these one-liners and everything like that. So to me, I just thought like Tigger was probably like the only saving moment for that film. But other than that, I mean, between the costumes, which is like the problem I had with 2, is like the costumes look a lot more jankier than the first film. I get they were trying to make it more scary looking, but they just look cheap and terrible. Crappier actors in the film, and honestly, a change of actors as well, which I did not like. You know, I didn't think they should have changed out the Christopher Robin. I didn't think they should have changed out the guy who played Pooh. But they did. I didn't like it. Terrible movie. It was one of the worst films that I've watched this year. Next film that I want to say that wasn't really that good to me, which was on the disappointment list. It was cool, but it was disappointing at the same time. Maxine. And the 3 words that I have for this film was not that interesting. I mean, it's supposed to be in a giallo style film, and it's supposed to be the continuation of the story of Maxine Minx from the X series. So, as y'all know, Ty West came out with X and Pearl, which were big movies. Big movies, and I believe he filmed those 2 films together. So when they came out kind of back to back 1 year after, or actually I think they came out in the same year, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they came out the same year. So when they came out the same year, we were definitely, I guess in a way, spoiled with like such good movies. I mean, X was a really good slasher film. Pearl was a very good dark fantasy film. So when we heard there was a 3rd installment, which was Maxine, I mean, we were definitely excited to see where this film was going to go and how amazing it was going to be. Well, it wasn't really that amazing at all to me. I just felt like this one was more on the lazy side of the writing. I felt like it should have took notes from Malignant if they were going to go with the giallo style. Because there should be no reason why, and this is the biggest problem I had with this film, there shouldn't be any reason why I should know who the killer is within 2 minutes of the movie. I shouldn't even figure that out. I swear, like, there's very few movies that I really do figure out who the killer is before the big reveal happens. And this movie was one of them. And it was because it was already obvious who the killer was going to be if you have seen the movie X. I just thought that made the movie almost unwatchable in a way. It was so unwatchable after that. So yeah, I don't think I really have anything else to say too much about Maxine. I mean, besides the kills not being that memorable to me, I really don't remember too much from it. Yeah, and I mean, again, like I said before, it was okay, but it was definitely on the disappointment side because I was expecting more from it. And that's probably because of what Ty West did for the first 2 films. So moving on to the next movie that was very disappointing to me was The Blue Rose. And the 3 words that I had for this one, actually, I had 3 words for it. So the first 3 words that I have for it was expose twist early. And the other one is lack of gas. Now, this one was an Amazon rental movie that I wanted to watch because I looked at the trailer. The trailer seemed interesting. It was supposed to be like a ode to David Lynch type film. It was mixed with noir. As y'all know, I love movie noir just in general. I love film noir. I love movies like No Country for Old Men, which is a bit of a Western noir. I do love Mulholland Falls, which is like the biggest noir. Chinatown, that's another one that I do like. And this one was on that aspect of those types of films. I mean, even Hellraiser, I want to say, what is that? Hellraiser Inferno was a bit of a horror noir in a way because it was dealing with a type of a detective story. So I was expecting like Blue Rose to kind of be not really on that Hellraiser Inferno level, but just in a way like it twists a bit of like Mulholland Falls or Chinatown with the horror aspects in it. And like I mentioned before, it's supposed to be like a weird experimental film that is kind of in a David Lynch style, but it felt more in line. I'm sorry. It's supposed to be an ode to, what is his name? I'm sorry, I said the wrong name. They didn't say David Lynch. No, the movie felt like a David Lynch film. I'm sorry, to me, it felt like a David Lynch film. It was supposed to be like what is his name? And I'm blanking out on his name. and it's a very popular director too. I mean, he did The Shining. Oh my goodness, what is his name? Stanley Kubrick. It was supposed to be an ode to Stanley Kubrick. I can't believe I blanked out on Stanley Kubrick. This is how y'all know your boy gets real brain farts. And this is not like a super professionally written podcast like that. Hey, I have mistakes. I make mistakes, y'all. But it's supposed to be like a Stanley Kubrick type film, but it ended up feeling like more like a David Lynch film to me. Not only that, it kind of gave away the plot of who the killer is, and basically the detective story is basically searching for that killer, which made the story very uninteresting because the point of noir films is you're not supposed to know who the killer is. You don't know who the killer is. The point of noirs is trying to figure out who the killer is and why they did what they did. This film did not do that, and it was very disappointing for me to watch this film, and not to mention like how slow it was and how much it felt like it dragged most of the time. I wasn't really interested afterwards. That was a film that was very disappointing to me. It was really bad. I wouldn't suggest anybody to watch it really, to be honest. But yeah, that's just my thoughts. So the fifth disappointing thing to me from this year is, I want to say, the entire year's offering. And I want to say just the three words I have for that is lack of offerings. And it's not so much as like lacking in, and I might be trolling on this one, y'all, but it's not the fact that they didn't give out movies to us for this year. There was definitely a lot of movies, but there was a lot of crap that you had to go through in order to get to the good films. And I know there's probably good films that was released by Shudder, Screambox, Amazon, all the major companies after that. But for me, there was just a lot that I just was not interested in watching, honestly. And not to mention, too, that I was going through a lot of imposter syndrome and just dealing with that and trying to get through that, which kind of almost deterred me to watch a lot of films in a way, or just even thinking about continuing the podcast in a way. But I'm glad that I did, because I do feel like maybe I'm not the strongest voice in the horror community whatsoever, but I definitely do feel like some of the things that I do say has some merit. And I mean, it's a different perspective from the usual I feel like you get with all the tongue-in-cheek and all the pretentiousness, or just people who just like, they have these stale takes and what have you. And I just feel like it's too much poll writing for like some of these films that come out. One thing that was definitely pissing me off about this year was just a lot of like trash ass movies that were coming out. So like The Night Swim, I watched that film, I fell asleep on that shit, woke up in the middle, well actually not even the middle of the movie, but at literally the end of the film, and I pretty much like not really copied and paste, but I kind of just like filled in the blanks of what was happening in the film, and I really did not need to watch it at all. Another film that was terrible was Imaginary, that I wasn't even interested in watching. I still haven't watched it, and it's still not on any streaming services. Will I watch it? Hell no. Another one was Mickey's Mousetrap, which was another film I couldn't wait to see because I wanted to see how much of a disaster film this movie really was. And unlike Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, this movie was a disaster. And to hear that they got a part 2 coming out pretty soon really does make me question, like, okay, what movies are these companies really trying to make? And Mousetrap is not one of those films that we want to see like that, at least for me. But we know this movie is going to make money just because of the name Mickey Mouse and all that, or just the character Mickey Mouse being used in this film. And another one was Terror, which I was just like, I am not interested in watching it at all. Another thing that just like was not really that interesting to me was too many soap opera movies. I've seen Abigail and I've seen Trap. Trap is good for an M. Night Shyamalan movie, but is it really like one of the best movies that came out from this year? It was definitely not, but it was definitely a good film on a M. Night Shyamalan take. Abigail was good too, but I feel like Radio Silence could have did a lot better with that film, at least to make it more memorable, like Ready or Not, or like what they did with the Scream films. And then with like the movie side of things, you know, there was just too many movies from channels like Shudder or Screambox that I just wasn't really too interested in. And like I mentioned before, my personal life just got too much in the way, and just like personal matters got in the way as well. I ended up watching like a not really a fair, decent amount of movies this year. And this is why I say like this last part, I mean, you got to take it as a troll, because I mean, if you know me personally, I am the biggest troll ever. So, I definitely was not too interested in a lot of things that came out this year. I mean, I tried my best to try and watch movies from this year, and it wasn't really that great per se. I'm just hoping that next year there are better films that come out and I could actually get through a lot of them, but I do have like a lot of plans for this year as far as the podcast. So we'll see how much films I actually do watch movie wise from the upcoming year. But other than that, that is my 5 disappointing movies from this year. So I'm going to take another break, and when I come back, it is going to be the outro. So be right back.
Now get my way, bitch.
All right. So welcome to the Slasher Corner, which I am bringing back, y'all. So as y'all know, the Slasher Corner is usually like the outro part of the show where I talk about movies that usually it's like a suggestion, but now it's just movies that I've watched during the recording of this podcast or before the recording of this podcast. But since this is a New Year's episode, basically, and just a recap, kind of like, you know, on the things that I like and dislike for the year, let's talk about goals and hopes. I know some of y'all probably like, Doom, I don't want to hear this shit. But for the real ones that want to hear this, I mean, let's talk about this for a minute. So, your boy, he has like a couple of goals that he is trying to hit and achieve within the next year. This year, I feel like I've achieved some bit of success. I don't want to say like there was like total losses or big losses, or I mean there were some big losses this year that really have affected me this year. But there are some wins that actually came through and kind of struck with the chord and just really brought your boy to a different mindset and everything like that. But I want to say, like, personally for me this year, at least the one of the biggest win that I know I could share with y'all is overcoming this imposter syndrome and just saying, fuck it, I'm just gonna record. You know. And honestly speaking, like, for those who probably do have that imposter syndrome feeling, wherever they are trying to, make space in, whether it's like creating your own podcast, maybe you want to like write and create your own story. Maybe you want to create your own music and you just feel like, well, I'm not talented enough to make music. All I gotta say is like, fuck the bullshit. Fuck what anybody else has to say. Fuck whatever they're gonna say about your stuff. Because at the end of the day, a lot of these motherfuckers that be commenting about like what you can't even do shit for themselves. You know what I'm saying? So I want to say for those who are struggling with a bit of imposter syndrome, or even just struggling with some mental health stuff because they feel like they're not good enough, fuck what anybody says and just do the damn thing. You know what I'm saying? But as far as 2025 goes, here's a couple of goals that I have in mind for myself. One is to be more consistent on the uploads for 2025. Your boy is actually finding new methods of recording and trying to make episodes. So a lot of next year, it's going to be a lot different from previous years, especially with the podcast. And it's mainly because your boy is trying to manage life and trying to manage this podcast at the same time, as well as manage like career goals and what have you. But and if y'all listen to the prelude episode, yeah, y'all know like I'm really am trying to like make changes and what have you with myself. So with that, I mean, I'm trying not to have the podcast go back on the back burner like it did, because while I was dealing with life and all the stuff that comes with it, I definitely put this podcast on the back burner, especially since I was planning on relaunching this show anyway with a different name, different feel, different graphics and what have you. As you know, like, your boy is almost like a one-man band and what have you, where I handle the editing, the production, and the graphics to the show. So a lot of the stuff that's happening on the show is me. The only thing I would say that I never really handled was music, because I am very impatient when it comes to making music, and I have two left fingers where I cannot make music properly. So yeah, your boy really leaves that to his boys from high school. You know, my boy Algorithm C, who I've known since like who knows how long, bro. I mean, we went to the same high school together, and we went to the same college together. So yeah, broski has been in my life for like a very long time. Shouts out to him and his family. And my other boy, Cali the Wolf. I mean, my boy, he out there living in Memphis right now, doing his thing, but is a big 3-6 Mafia fan, which I put on Let's Talk About Horror when he did that episode with him and Enoch. Yeah, I've known Kelly since I was like in high school as well, but I was like in 11th grade, like 16 years old. So yeah, me and Kelly, we go way back and what have you, man. We lost touch for a bit, but we got back connected through this podcast, and I want to put his music out there, to help not only just serve purpose to this podcast, but to serve purpose to the world, and encourage and inspire anybody out there who is trying to think about like making music in their advanced years and what have you. Even if it's not trying to become a big artist, but you just want to put music out there to have people enjoy, definitely do that. So yeah, I do appreciate both of them, not only them, but also my boy Enoch and his growth that's happening in his world as well. Second thing that I want to do more in 2025 is definitely get the followers up and engagement. I mean, that's like some social media shit. But as y'all know, your boy don't really care about that social media shit. But in order to get like more engagement and more people kind of like exposed to your boy, don't be stingy, y'all. Share your boy to everyone. There's plenty of me to go around. Let me stop. That sounds so sexual. But yeah, just trying to get that up a bit so people could get more inspiration from me. I'm trying to at least clean up my act a little bit. As y'all notice, I did say nudity earlier, and not titties, I don't know. I think I got to a point where I'm just like, damn it, I need to stop saying stuff like that, because probably women are listening to me and they're just thinking like, oh my God, this Walterdoom guy, he's so disgusting and disrespectful, and oh my God, like, why does he talk like that and whatever, But I don't know. I mean, I'm hoping like the women that do listen to me, they aren't thinking that at all, and maybe they're just like laughing like this guy is a fool. Because I am. I mean, I don't say the things to be disrespectful. I do probably say that bitch a lot, but we're gonna chill on that one a bit. We're gonna stop disrespecting some of these public women and what have you. Oh man, but I really did go in on that one chick who was disrespecting her though, But another thing that I do want to get more involved in is getting more guests on here, especially people who are involved with the film industry and podcasting. But it kind of like goes with the whole like, I need to start talking to more people. You know what I'm saying? And your boy is a bit of an introvert sometimes, and it doesn't help with the mental health shit also, where your boy could kind of like get reserved and kind of like, damn, no one wants to talk to me, blah, blah, blah. But, I need to get over that. I need to get above that, especially if I want to have this podcast grow even more so and what have you. But yeah, try and get more guests involved, get more people who either like listening to my show or just want to talk to your boy, or even just like people who are involved with podcasting or anything like that, or just overall horror people, come to the show. I mean, y'all are welcome. Don't be afraid. I don't bite. I don't get why people say that. That's such a weird statement to say sometimes. And it's like, I don't know, when they say like, don't be afraid, I don't bite. I don't know, what if the person likes a little bit of biting? I'm sorry. That was totally inappropriate, but I'm just saying, like, I always think that was like kind of a weird statement when people used to say like, oh, come over here, don't worry, I don't bite, But it's kind of like, sometimes I'm like, hey, what if I like a little biting? I'm just saying, not to be nasty or anything like that, but moving on, the last thing that I put on my list is inspire more people who struggle with mental health. And again, like at this point, y'all know about that shit about me. I'm not keeping it too much of a big secret that I struggle with that shit, Am I going into details about my own mental health? No, I am not. No, I am not going into details about my own mental health. And I mean, I will share maybe things that I feel comfortable with sharing as far as what's dealing with my own mental health, but I do want to inspire a lot more people who do deal with a lot of mental health problems and mental health issues, because I mean right now we are in a society where I just think like a lot of people have like issues. I mean, it's not a joke or anything, but I do feel like there's a lot of people who are dealing with too much, like what's going on in their head mentally. Like there's too much going on, too much noise in their head. Whether it's comparing, contrasting themselves to other people that they feel are more successful than them, whether it's dealing with a loss in their life, whether it's dealing with a toxic work environment. There's a lot of things going on with people in the society today, and a lot of things that I just have not been liking, or what I've been seeing, in general, and especially how people are treating each other and how they talk about each other. Yeah, I haven't been a fan of it for a while. And actually, I feel like I haven't been a fan of it for a very long time, because, I mean, I want to say 2024 is probably the worst society has ever been socially has been the worst. I really do feel like there's too much treating people as the other, and I feel like there's too much trying to find the bad in people versus, well, and I mean, I'm not saying like we should all look at people as good intentions. I mean, there are people who have bad intentions, but I want to say not everybody has ill intentions, and honestly speaking, I mean, it's like they say, my favorite saying is, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. So, and how that relates to what I'm talking about right now is, the way I see it is the stupid game. If you play the stupid game of seeing everybody as bad and you're expecting the bad in people, and that's just all you're looking for is just like how horrible a person is going to treat you, you're going to win the stupid prize of a terrible thing happening, basically. So for me, it's like I want to kind of bring this podcast more into more inspiration, more positivity than anything else. I want to definitely inspire my brethren and sisters of black people out there who are creators as well, because I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I'm just another nigga on the mic, you know what I'm saying? But on a super small scale, but at the same time, it's like I feel like it's a big thing for me, because I grew up in an age where it wasn't even acceptable for black people to really like horror movies. It wasn't acceptable for black people to really like rock music or alternative music. They always saw that as like, yeah, why you like that type of music? That's that white people shit, I'm from that era where like mental health wasn't really a big topic of discussion, and I feel like even with like mental health right now, as much as I like am kind of like talking more and speaking more about it and being honest about it, there's a lot of people who try to, I want to say, leverage mental health as a financial gain, which is so weird to me, because it's like, how you leverage mental health, bro? How do you take mental health and just be like, yeah, I got mental health, give me millions, like they are monopolizing off of mental health in a way that is just like disgusting to me. I mean, it's like, I'd rather hear somebody really talk about mental health and not suggest better help as a help to dealing with my depression or anything else like that. especially since BetterHelp has gotten a real negative aspects of them with being con artists, or just like people who are not really that professional or really helpful for people who really actually need therapy, but yeah, for my channel, I want to be more of an inspiration for those that deal with that, whether it's like me talking about my own stories or just hearing stories in general from other people. Maybe the movies that are coming out are probably like something you watch and it was an inspiration to you. I kind of want to put those movies out there so y'all can feel better about yourselves, or just feel like at least you're not alone in this life. Because that's the only problem with dealing with mental health, is that, and at least for me, it's like a lot of times you just feel like you're alone. And it feels like you just like are the only one dealing with what you're dealing with most of the time. And it's really tough to kind of like open up and tell people about it, because you don't know how I feel like I'm not using that word, recipient or receptive. There we go. I knew I wasn't using that word right. How receptive the other person will be. Are they going to be sensitive to it? Are they going to take it as a joke? There's a lot of like fucked up people out here, and it's kind of hard to like always trying to open up to others, and I'm pretty sure like a lot of y'all that are dealing with it, y'all know how hard it is to kind of open up to people, especially if you don't have a circle that really supports that, especially if you didn't grow up in a family that really preached that as well. I didn't grow up in a household where we talked about our feelings or anything like that. So, that probably is why I'm the person that I am, and how I deal with like things that are hard with me, or just like things that are going on mentally with me, because of like how I was raised and what have you. But those are the things that I want to kind of like get more involved with in 2025. Other than that, I hope you guys have your own goals that you want to set for yourselves. Do better for yourselves. 2025 is coming up. And for a lot of us, it's probably going to be a struggle, man. It's going to be a struggle. If y'all thought 2024 was bad, wait till 2025. I swear, we are definitely turning into the Hunger Games pretty soon out here. And don't be surprised if the purge becomes reality. But but anyway, this is your boy Walterdoom signing out for another episode of Film and Guts. If you want to follow me on those social medias, it's Walterdoom Horror on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Walterdoom on anywhere podcasts are streaming. And this has been another episode that I am closing out. See y'all in the new year. This is America. Don't let them catch you slipping now. Stay diabolical, people. Peace.